welcome back to Sinister Scripts Podcast, where we watch all the horror movies you know and love, some that you have never heard of. And we have a special guest joining us today, and that's Rebekah Kennedy. Hi, Rebekah.
Hi.
Hello. Of
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely.
course.
And so, yeah, we wanted to. Rebekah is starring in a new horror movie coming out next week on Friday the 12th, correct? September the 12th.
Yes,
And that movie is
very
called
exciting.
Traumatica. So we had the opportunity to watch this one early, so we wanted to have Rebekah on here and talk about the movie, talk about her journey in film, upcoming projects, and just kind of chat a little bit. So Traumatica will be the focus of our film because we want to bring all the eyes that we can possibly to see this being independent film, independent
hmm
horror. David and I, as well as a lot of creators I'm sure you've talked to, are very passionate about it in the space. So we're excited to have you on here and talk about it. So. The first thing that I wanted to start with was kind of just your career and your background. So, you've built a pretty impressive career on both sides, both roles in film, television. What drew you to acting? Did you always see yourself gravitating towards more like darker horror themed projects, or did that just kind of how the dice fell?
Yeah, so I started acting at a young age. I was 12 when I started doing theater.
Wow.
And I did theater through junior high and high school, and I went to college for theater. And I had every intention of after school, I went to school in Florida.
Hmm.
I had every intention of like moving to New York and doing the whole theater the scene.
Hmm.
And
Right.
I moved back to Texas, where I'm from originally, to kind of, save some money, get my bearings, like, figure out like New York and like how, I was going to live there or whatever. And in the meantime, I was, doing theater in Texas more. And a friend of mine was like, "Have you thought about doing, film and TV? Are you interested in that at all?" And I was like, "I am, but I wasn't sure how to, get into it." Like back then, there wasn't as much information as there is now online and
Right.
creators and
Yeah.
you know, which is great. So I was like, "I am, but I don't know, And they were like, "Just start submitting for, student films, short films." So that's what I did. I started submitting for anything that I remotely fit. Um, and another friend of mine, so I did a short film, and I, was basically went in doing background. I was an extra, and I
Hmm.
got
Mm.
bumped being like the guy's girlfriend at a funeral or something. And a friend of mine there was like, "Hey, was kind enough to refer me to his agent." So he referred me to his agent in Louisiana, and they signed me, even though I didn't have a lot. It's kind of like on a trial basis. And
Sure.
Yeah.
so they started auditioning, and the first thing I booked that was made, it was bigger, was a film called House Hunting, and then I did Season of the Witch with Nicolas Cage, and then I did a film called Creature, and I did my first co-star on Memphis Beat, if you remember that show with Jason Lee.
I do.
hmm
Yeah, and on TNT.
Yep.
And uh, and then I had a manager reach out that'd seen House Hunting, and he was like, really interested in like repping me. And he was like, "Have you thought about moving to LA?" And I was like, "I don't know." At this point, I was married, and so it wasn't just me, I had to think about another person, like, do they want to move? So I
Right.
came to LA for like 2 months to, see if I would like it.
Hmm.
Where I like asked him to pack up, and I came home after the 2 months, and I was like, "I think we should move."
Hmm.
And my husband is amazing. And he was like, "Okay." So we moved a month later. And so now we've lived out here 13 years. So
Wow.
that's
Wow.
kind of how I got started. As far as into horror, it wasn't, I've loved horror since a very young age. I started watching it at 11 and haven't stopped. It wasn't my intention to do horror. I wasn't like, I'm going to be in horror films. But
Right.
it's what I started auditioning for, at the beginning. It's like, when you're first starting out, and even still, you audition for what you get.
Sure.
And you take what you get because
Right.
you don't
Right.
have,
Yeah.
can't be picky. So those are the first things I started booking because I'm pale and petite, and people, I have ethereal look, so I've told, and
Yeah.
like to throw blood on me, and so it worked out, and I love
Yeah.
it.
Nice.
I
Yeah.
feel like no matter what I do in my career, no matter where it goes, I will always come back to doing horror as well because I love watching it. I love acting in it. There's so many different subgenres and things you can explore on like real topics
Hmm.
that maybe
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to explore in any other genre. So yeah, it's kind of
Awesome.
how I got started, and I am like really thankful to be still doing it.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So I have to know because you said you did this season of The Witch. Tell me, how was Nicolas Cage? Because I love Nicolas Cage and I feel like
Yeah.
he's in so much like he doesn't get his flowers enough for being in a lot he's in a lot of horror stuff over the years and I loved like completely just off the rails unhinged Nick Cage. I know Season of the Witch isn't necessarily that like Mandy for example or something, but how is it to work with him? That sounds like it'd be super fun.
Oh, it was great. He's lovely. He's so nice and kind. And it was hot. It was August in Louisiana, and everybody was wearing, the 14th century garb. And it was just like we were outside, and I felt for them because they were in their knights
Mm-hmm.
outfits. And
Oof.
he would just, make sure that I had water and that did I need anything. And, I didn't tell him it was my first big movie, but I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
he probably knew. So, and he, at the end of it, he was like, keep going, like you're going to work forever, and just was very, very kind. And he didn't have
Yeah.
to because I was, I had a small part. So it's like,
Right. Yeah.
so that showed me like who his character is, because
Yeah.
Beasley just, I wasn't like some big name that he needed to impress. So,
Yeah.
he was super cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always good to hear that because I knew the age-old saying is like, "Oh, don't meet your icons because you might be
Right. Yeah.
disappointed. Don't meet your heroes." And so, and I've been obviously as much as we're into horror, we've gone to all kinds of conventions, we've met all kinds of people, and there's been a handful that have been not what I expected or they were very rude, and I was like, "Man, that kind of bums me out." But then there's
Hmm.
also been probably more where I'm like, you know what? Like they are the nicest freaking people, and so it's always nice to hear whenever you're like, "Hey, big star like Nick Cage," and it's like that's good to hear. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's cool. Yeah, it's for the most part, like most people are great. Like I've not run into like thankfully very many people on sets that aren't
Right.
like so I mean
That's
of
good.
course you're gonna have some people that are having a bad day or
Sure.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
human.
a bad life or they're just not, whatever there's going on in
Yeah.
their lives.
Yeah.
But for the most part, majority of people are just like really happy to be there.
Awesome. Awesome.
Cool. Cool. So horror fans know you for your intense and memorable performances. What do you think sets horror apart as a genre for actors compared to things like, let's say, like comedy or drama, those sort of things?
Well, first off, that's very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's because you get to do like stuff that you would never get to do. I mean, it's, you're running from something, you're chasing something, you're fighting something, you're um, in these like impossibly fantastical situations that would
Hmm.
Hmm.
never ever happen and hopefully never happen in this life.
Right.
And so it's just you're battling against, sometimes a green screen or a
Right.
tennis ball or pretending something's there. And not a lot of the other genres have that. Now, comedy and drama are not easy. Nothing is easy. Um,
Right.
but as far as like you really have to like in a horror film, you really have to throw yourself in because there isn't really a way to like think your way into a situation that's so
Hmm.
impossibly to understand, to wrap your head around. You kind of just have to like dive in and throw yourself into the deep end. And
Hmm.
it can be it's a great challenge and it's a way to explore all these different things that maybe no other genre would even touch because you wouldn't nobody wants to watch you know, a an hour and a half movie, like maybe a drama about something, but you could take that theme and put it into a horror film and then people now want to watch it. So
Right. Yeah.
so it's an interesting way to explore darker themes and topics we should be talking about that maybe we wouldn't be able to talk about any other way.
Right. That's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah. So kind of piggybacking on that. So when you take a role like the role in Traumatica, for example, it is a darker themes, it very, very, very dark themes there. How
Hmm.
do you like prepare mentally to kind of be in that headspace, to live in that headspace, that area where it is heavy or like a terrifying spot on set to where you leave it there, you don't take it home, like being able to separate, reality from, what we're seeing on screen.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mean, because like we said, the situation is are so kind of hard to even wrap your head around what's
Hmm.
happening. And I can't relate directly to hopefully being like possessed or something like that. So,
Right.
thankfully, for me, I have to find how I can connect her in a different way because
Hmm.
it's really important for me to find the groundness in her and ground her in a reality that is hopefully believable to the audience. And I also know that there are things happening in this movie that people watching could relate to or have had happen to them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there are going to be people watching that have had something in their family happen similar. So
Hmm.
I know that going in, so I want to be as respectful to that as possible and hopefully give that an authenticity and it's not like seen as like we're making fun of or like making light of a situation. And
Right, right.
for me, for Abigail, for instance, she is somebody that's like, very lonely and lost and feels very unseen by the world and feels like no one is going to understand her
Mm-hmm.
situation, understand her, what's happening. She feels like very, obviously in the depths of despair. And I feel like a lot of us can relate to at some point in our lives feeling lost and unseen. And
Yeah.
I know I can. And so I put that in first. I take that first, and then I put the situation of what's happening around it so that at least I can be hopefully grounded in like what she's actually going through and I can relate to that in some way so it doesn't feel like so out there that I'm like, oh, I don't even know what this would be like.
Hmm.
And so I start there and then like, layer in everything else kind of around that and
Mm-hmm.
Pierre the director is amazing and he helps guide and guide and shape the performance and the film so that I can hopefully do my best work. And they create such a safe and supportive, encouraging environment that I always feel like I can take risks. I can go there, and and I'm in a safe place, and it's
Right.
they're respectful of me and my craft, and like knowing that I have to go to those dark places. And like I always say, like if you can't find me, I'm probably in the corner muttering to myself. And, then they'll just like bring me over and like they let me tell them when I'm ready. They tell me to take my time. They don't rush me. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I never feel like, oh my God, we got to get on. We got to move on. You better
Right.
bring it up, because we're
Mm-hmm.
not robots. So,
Right.
Hmm.
and that creates an environment that you can play and discover and
Yeah.
find things in the moment and make find things that you would never be able to plan for even if you could rehearse for months for the film you would never be able to find those things until it's
Mm-hmm.
happening on camera on the day.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then at the end of the day, it's funny, I don't feel it, but my husband, if I'm working at home, like if I'm working from home, like I'm in Los Angeles working.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. My husband says like I am a little different when I'm filming. I don't see it. I don't come home thinking that I'm like I'm gonna be like, but he said that there's just like a kind of a different aura, and then when we wrap, it kind of like dissipates. And so,
Yeah.
Right.
and I think that's also because I'm always like I'm trying to be very aware of my surroundings and what could influence me or the character on set.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Or I'm thinking about like what she doesn't have that I have, so that also kind of helps me when I get there, kind of and
Right.
be immersed in the world. So
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like I kind of, pack her up and I'm like, thank her for my time, like hopefully be able to move on.
Right.
Yeah. That's always it's always nice to hear like when people take like because a lot of times we've talked to a lot of actors and actresses who are like, hey, we have a script, we have a character that's written, but it may not be fleshed out completely, and then it's up to them to take their experiences and how, like you said, how they identify and how they relate to
Yeah.
what the character is feeling, doing, and make that character their own. So it's nice to see you be able to have that freedom to kind of make it your own, not be because I feel like if you do too much character development right off the top, you're putting yourself in a box where you're not able to kind of push those boundaries and explore. So that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you don't take it home because like your character was terrifying and
Yes.
like the scene, the one that keeps like I keep seeing when I close my eyes is where she's peeking through the door when the little boy is
Oh
hiding, and
Oh
like
God,
I was
yeah.
like that. I'm like I don't need that in my house. I believe to leave that on set, please. I don't need that. I don't need that horror in my home. But it definitely came across, and the character was very relatable. I think due to the fact that a lot of it, and as is a lot of horror, it's grounded in grief and trauma and other themes that
Yeah.
make things scary, like real life things that make things scary, and then we take them and make them supernatural or slasher or whatever. We kind of mold them, but they're all grounded in very real feelings and emotions. Um, the one that kind of we're just going to kind of keep piggybacking, and then we'll get into some of the traumatic specific stuff that we can. tell you without spoiling things because we do want you to go out and see the
Right.
movie.
Yes.
But so you've appeared in some horror productions over the years, and it was funny because I was watching this movie and I was like, I've seen her somewhere, and I couldn't place you, and then it
Mm.
hit me that was the Two Witches, and I was like, that's where I saw you, and I was like, looking back, is there a role or a character from a movie that kind of pushed you the hardest as an actor, like that really pushed you to your limits, where you either it could be anything, just a frustrating situation, it could be just like hard time identifying with a character, or something that kind of pushed you to your limits.
Ooh, that's a great question. Um,
We can always circle back if you want to think on it.
Yeah.
yeah, like so you're asking like something that was like harder to do, I guess
Yeah,
is the
I mean, it could have been a character that you just didn't identify with, that you had a harder time getting into that headspace, or it could have been something on set that happened that was harder than normal to deliver, that kind of just pushed you to your boundaries.
it's a great. I'd probably say one of the ones. I mean, probably this movie,
Yeah,
honestly, like Traumatica. I had a great experience.
yeah.
I love these guys. Like you said, I'm in Two Witches. I worked that they did that movie as well, and so I knew
Hmm.
going in, like that they were going to take care of me in the best way possible,
Hmm.
in terms of like making sure that like everything was safe and comfortable and like but I did a lot of stuff I've never done before, physically and emotionally, and a lot of scenes were very scary for me to
Right.
film uh, because they were rooted in like reality, especially like the pregnancy scene, for instance, was
Hmm.
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
that was a day I was like dreading.
Hmm.
I can imagine.
And I'm only laughing because I'm so uncomfortable, not because it's funny a situation, but
Right.
um, and I don't want to get emotional on here, but yeah, that scene was, and it wasn't one we could rehearse. I mean, we set the camera up, we blocked it, but like I was like, I can't rehearse this scene. I just got to go for it. Like we
Right.
just got to call action, and I just got to see what happens because
Yeah.
I feel like I was so in my head. I was
Hmm.
so worried about like it coming across fake or stupid, or somebody watching and being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they thought that that was like impactful," you know?
Right.
So there was a
Hmm.
lot of things going on in my head. So that was
Absolutely.
really, one of the harder shoots in general, as far as like just me doing a lot of things that I haven't done, which is great, which is why I wanted to take the role.
Sure.
Um, because if we don't challenge ourselves, we don't grow as people and we don't grow as actors. We just kind of stay
100%.
with what we're good at. Then we're like, oh, there she is doing her shtick again, and
Yeah.
it's, you know, you're not like getting better, so
You're
to
not
speak.
growing.
You're not
Exactly.
Right.
growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and they create that place where I can do that. Because like for instance, another the scene with the dad um initially wasn't gonna be that. It was they
Gotcha.
were gonna just do a wide and he was gonna just pan and you were just gonna like infer what happened
Right.
Right.
and he had a close up on the shot list and I said like we should get this while you're and they've talked about this, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything, but I was like, we should get this shot. And he's like,
Yeah.
are you sure? Like, I don't want to. And I was like, no, you were here, you should get it. And if you don't want to use it, if it feels like it's crossing two lines, like just don't use it. But
Hmm.
that's because I worked with Sean O'Brien before, who plays my dad, because I trust them so much. And I felt like it was so important to see what was happening to her in order to feel any empathy for her later,
100%.
Right.
see it in your face. And I feel like it was respectfully done and it showed enough without you don't need to show anymore and you understand what's happening. But that was also a scene that was like terrifying for me, but I was like, we have to do it.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say this shoot was pushed me further out of my comfort zone than any other movie.
I mean, from watching the
Yeah.
movie, it was very it definitely, like, it hit on a lot of what I would say triggers for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Even David messaged me. He's like, holy shit, like like my mind is going in a million places. I was like, I know
Yeah.
it's hitting you from a lot of different places from being like, and we'll get into it more specifically, but there was definitely a lot of themes there that, if you're not prepared for them, or if you have
Hmm.
triggers for them, it can definitely, but I think it was well done. Like I think it was well
Yeah.
shot. It looked clean. It looked cohesive. The scenes were shot in such a way that it wasn't like overly gratuitous or, what I mean? Does that make sense? Like it wasn't
Yeah,
insincere. So I felt like it worked and they did a very good job. So
thank you. That was
yeah,
like a major concern of mine. And I knew that they were going to do great. It was just you want to make sure that like nothing is taken out of like people are watching it and being like, wow, they have no respect for what's people are going through, you know?
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier how like after doing a movie, like you can just kind of put that character like in a box, as you said, like and kind of put it away. So
Yeah.
to kind of piggyback off of that, because a lot of horror movies deal with like extreme emotions, which this movie definitely does. How do you
yes.
balance the emotional intensity of the role with your own well-being offset? Like how do you go from one to the other?
I come home and watch a comedy.
Yes.
There you
Good
go.
answer.
I have my comfort shows, like Big Bang Theory in the middle are two of my comfort comedies.
Nice.
I've seen all of the seasons, like I've seen all the episodes a million times, so I can put it on and not really have to watch it, but it's on in the background.
Yeah,
And
background noise, yeah.
it's a good like way of decompressing, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like because I know I'm gonna have to get up the next day and do it again.
Right.
And nothing in this, there's only like one scene in this film that was like fun to film. Well, I think there was multiple scenes that were fun in the beginning, but a
Yeah.
lot
Right, right.
were not fun to work to film. It was a great experience. I love working with them, but like the actual from action to cut were not like, oh, this is so fun.
Yeah.
Um, so at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, there's a way of like kind of decompressing, but then also like I don't want to, it's hard because I don't want to put it away so far because I know I'm going to have to come back to it the next day.
Right, right.
And it's a at least for me, I can't speak for other actors, but I'm not one of those actors that can like turn it on and off like action and then I'm crying and then I'm
Right.
running around like ah
Yeah.
like you know. And so your body doesn't know the difference between like real and fake. And so it'll
Mm-hmm.
it'll start to try to like trick to like protect itself. So
Right.
Yeah.
I go to certain things, it starts to put walls up. So while there is part of me that is like needs to decompress and like needs to like just like lay in my bed and stare at the ceiling, there's another part of me that's like I can't let it go too far away because then I'm gonna have to bring it back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's
Uh,
it's like an athlete, like training your body to do
Yeah.
certain things. It's not an athlete, maybe not an athletic, you know, game for so to speak, but I mean you're training your body to, like you said, to process emotions and have that come across on film like it's real, and then
Hmm.
your body because your body is amazing is going to be like, oh no, I don't like feeling this way. So you're right, it puts up like, oh, I'm going to try to protect myself. So like
yeah,
it's almost it's just as impressive to me what actors and actresses are able to do. Like you said, some people it's incredible. You turn it on, turn it off. That's
yeah,
ridiculous. I feel like you guys are freaks. Most normal people, are
Right.
affected by these types of things. So it's definitely impressive to see that. But you know, I don't know if I could do it. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so I feel like I'd be a hot mess as like an actor. I guess we're gonna find out. David and I, a friend of ours, is shooting an independent film that we get to be a part of. So
oh,
I guess
Yeah.
amazing.
I
Congrats.
guess we'll see.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we'll
And
see
I'm
how that
assuming
goes.
it's a horror film.
Yeah, it's a friend of David's wife's. His name is Jamie Schmidt. He directed a film called Are You Dead Yet?
Hmm.
And they're doing a sequel to it, and he's like, "Yeah, come on up. We'll give you some roles." He's like, "We may even kill you on film. You never."
Yep.
So I'm like, "All
He's
right,
like, all right,
we're
done.
in, we're in." So
Awesome.
we'll see how we handle that, I guess.
Yeah.
You're hopefully not crying in the corner.
Yeah,
Right.
hopefully not, but it's very much like like kind of throwback slasher style, so little campy with so I'm hoping that it should be a good time. I'm just excited to see how a film set works. I've never been on one, so I'm just excited to see
Just how it works.
how
Yeah.
one operates, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'll be exciting, but
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a a craft, right? I mean, it is like it is a craft. And
Hmm.
Hmm.
anyone that like doesn't think anyone can do it, and it's just like you just say some lines is like grossly doesn't understand how it works.
It's
And I get
hard.
it because like if you're doing it well, it does look easy as it should. It should look effortless if it's
Right.
done right. Then on the flip side, it takes a lot of years and experience to like make it look that way. So it's
Right.
always an interesting dichotomy of like doing all your work and then letting it go on set and trusting that what you've done will show up,
Hmm.
Right.
which takes, takes time to like, work on. And
And
then,
perfect. Yeah.
right. And then, like you said, like as people, we spend years putting up walls because we're taught to not show emotion, not cry. Crying is for the weak.
Right.
Hmm.
Uh, and then in acting, you have to like learn how to take all those down because you have to be vulnerable and private and something of yourself so people watching can like relate or feel something when they're
Right.
watching. And so it's a interesting battle of like being hard. Like my teacher always says, you have to be, have the skin of a rhinoceros, but the insides of Jello. So
Yeah.
like we have to
Yeah.
have such tough skin on to like survive in this industry, but on the inside,
Right.
you do have to have your heart on your sleeve. You do have to be emotionally accessible
Yeah.
in order to really like for really to be able to do that kind of work,
That's
anyway.
great.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
That I never thought about it that way, but you
Yeah.
100% like I've many people say like Hollywood and being an actor is like it is not for like the weak-minded and the
Yeah.
you have to be tough and then yeah, but at the same time, hey, be tough, but also be emotional on screen for all the other people to watch you and
Yeah.
relate.
Yeah.
Sure,
And
sure.
yeah, and the heart you put into your even just your auditions for
Yeah.
then to hear nothing,
Oof.
you're putting everything out there and then like you don't hear anything, and it's like
Yeah.
that's the life. That is the constant life of like I've giving everything for very little back sometimes, and
Right.
that's the
Hmm.
life of an artist.
Yeah, yeah. So last question before we get into some more Traumatica
Yeah.
specific discussion. Horror fans are incredibly loyal, passionate, and sometimes can go off the rails. We've all seen it. You've been dealing with a lot of horror fans coming in talking to us, other podcasts, folks and that are watching the movie, giving feedback. I want to know what has been your experience like connecting with the horror community throughout your work in film, especially with Traumatica.
Oh, I mean, the horror community is amazing. I mean, the fans are just, they are, they help us be able to do what we do. I mean,
Mm,
indie films get seen because of the fans, because of people posting about it, because of you guys, people like you that are willing to like put it out there to the people. We don't have the massive, studio behind us to like spend, 50,000 on a billboard or whatever. So
Right.
right.
Yeah.
like it's kind of a grassroots like getting it out there as much as we can, and then like the fans, people like you guys that will make posts, will post about it, we'll have actors on, we'll talk about it, we'll champion it, and of course there's going to be people that hate it because that's just how the nature of the business.
It
And I
is.
always think like, okay, whether people love it or hate it, if they're talking about it passionately, either or, that
Hmm.
means you've done something.
Exactly.
I remember after Fright Fest, that was the world premiere in London. Um, we had our movie, and then apparently I heard that there was a really heated debate in a bar, a pub afterwards for people that loved it, people that hated it, and they were just like yelling at each other and like passionately like I can't believe it. No, I can't. And I was just like, great, that's awesome. That's
You
all
did
you
your
want.
job.
Yeah, we did
Exactly.
our job is like if you come out of it talking about it, regardless of what you felt, if you felt something, then we
Hmm.
elicited some reaction, then like that's the best I can hope for.
Yeah.
And then of course so many people have been so supportive and of the film and have been behind it, and it means a lot because look, you don't know when you make a film if anyone is going to care.
Right. It's hard because I
It
mean,
is.
film in general, not just horror, but like it always means something different to every single person that watches it because um there I might be going through something when I watch this movie that makes me identify with it a certain way. Another person is completely different. So I think that's what makes it so like, you know, so great in my minds because no one sees things the same way and everybody attaches to it differently. And I think what has been happening with independent films, specifically independent horror, has been awesome lately because you have films like the Terrifier series, what Damien and David have been able to accomplish on a similar level, building that film up, having not having a marketing budget. There were no commercial, you know what I mean? Like, and then I think that the community kind of rallying behind independent film has been great. At the same time, this is kind of one I wanted to piggyback off real quick was when you have an independent film and you're doing this, you don't have all this big budget and all the big, the backers and how do like let me see how I can rephrase this. How challenging is that to kind of like keep pushing it because like you said like but at the same time you're working through not having to have those the red tape. I think that's what I was getting through. Like a studio. For
Yeah,
example, my
right,
brother-in-law, a friend of his works in film and he's like for a big studio. I'm not going to say which one, but he said I asked him about a specific movie and I was like, "Why did they put this scene in there? It made no sense." And he was like, "That was a studio ad." Like they didn't want that. They fought about it, but it was a studio ad and there's certain things that the studio will come in and cut. And when you're
right,
working with an independent film, you don't have to worry about all of that or as
right.
much of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, there isn't anyone over your shoulder like telling you what you can and can't do. Of course, there's pros and cons to both, right? The
Right.
pro of
Yep.
the studio is you have money to like do the things that you want to do,
Right.
and con of an indie is that sometimes stuff is cut because you can't do it. You know,
Right.
as much as you would love to do the forklift and the whatever, you can't afford it. So then it changes.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I know Pierre and Max talked about like there were things in the movie that when they finished and they were looking for distribution that they thought that maybe a distributor would want to cut, would want to like, hey, we can't do this. This is too much,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
or
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
like we can't show this or whatever. And Saban, that bought the film, like wanted it the way it was. Didn't have any cuts. Didn't want them to change anything. And that's
Amazing.
great because you kind of never know when you're making a movie whether or not like you said, like somebody's gonna want something else or everyone has their own ideas of what works and what doesn't work. And
Mm-hmm.
um, as an actor, like in this, I just come in and do my best, and it's like I don't have any control over the edit or what happens
Right.
when
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it just I'm hopefully giving my best performance, and hopefully they're able to like put together the best film possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it is amazing to work in the indie world because you do, like you said, you do have that freedom. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, it's challenging because you don't have the unlimited funds to then fix stuff if it doesn't work or
Right.
Right.
It is nice though to see that indie is having success. It's hitting theaters. People are seeing it. Even when you get into like what are they calling it, the Pooniverse with the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, and all of like now that that's all open
Yeah,
source, and so people can use it. It is good seeing that. And I've always been a believer. I'm like, listen, if you put out a film that is worth watching, people are going to watch it.
Yep.
I mean, and for what I will say about Traumatica is like it looked good. Like
It
it
looked
looked
great.
polished. It looked clean. Like I would not have, if you would have handed it to me and I knew nothing about it and went into it blind, I would not have been like, oh, this is an indie horror film. It would not have been that. So like props to you, props to the whole team that did Traumatica. Like it looked amazing and it looked clean. And I thought that like sometimes like to your point that you want to do things that you have these grand ideas, but you can't because of budget or whatever the reason may be. You were able to accomplish what you wanted to, I think, in that film. And like I said, the directors might be like, even well, actually, we didn't accomplish a lot we wanted to do, but for what I
I
know, it
can't
looked
speak for
good.
them. Yeah,
Yeah. From
thank
what
you.
we
I mean,
saw, it
I
looked
can't.
great.
Thank you. I can't take any credit for like the look of the film because that's not me. But yeah, Pierre is also our DP, and he is just. I mean, I think he's a genius. I think he
Hmm.
has a really keen eye for angles and like ways to how to light things and to make it work.
Hmm.
And um, him and I work together as far as like does this scary, does this jump scare work, does this
Hmm.
does this moment, if you have to choreograph it to a like perfect science, and then also like does it work, and
Yeah,
set you're like I don't even know if it's scary or not.
it
we
was
try to watch
scary.
we try
Yes.
to watch playback, and see like does this jump scare work. But yeah, it's funny because I wish that people sometimes could see behind the scenes because it's so like the one of the earlier, not to give anything away, but one of the it's in the trailer. So one of the
Mm-hmm.
earlier scenes where I'm like on the table
Mm-hmm.
being under. So it's just like us, like him being like, okay, so I think you're gonna be on the table, and then you're just gonna like look down and then like say your line. And I was like, okay. And then like I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. Because you don't really know like what it looks like, uh,
Uh-huh.
how it's gonna work. I mean, until you kind of see it, them put it together, and he's just brilliant in being able to like craft something that just is like very unsettling. If that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And I mean, as an actor, like you said, you come in, you do your lines, like take the direction from them, but then also like when they start putting it together, and I think what really like brings a film together for me is the sound. And I
Mm.
thought that like they did such like the sound design and like the score for this were so good at building those periods of like tension and dread and like the really high up and then like to kind of lull you into this sense of like calm and then like they
Ramp
did a
up.
great job with that. And so like when you see that sometimes it's like holy shit, this movie just came alive. Like you've been doing these lines like you're shooting over here, you're shooting over here, you're doing this scene, but then when they start building it all put together and then putting in the sound and then messing with the lighting and then the score and you're like wow it's like becoming a movie, so that's got to be fun to see when you kind of
Hmm.
like add it all together and like your first time you see it, it probably I mean I imagine it kind of blows your mind the first time.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it was so cool to get to see it in London because it's a huge theater. It's an 800 seat theater, and so the screen
Wow.
is
Wow.
it's a balcony. The screen is huge. So
Yeah.
seeing it on that kind of screen was for my first time was like just like really exciting experience, and to be also with just the public. I've seen it 3 times with an audience, and it's so fun because people are jumping and laughing and like one guy was like, "Oh Jesus!" like really loud. It's like it's just really fun to see like the reactions because you don't
Yeah.
get
Oh
that when
yeah.
you're watching at home,
Yeah.
and so I'm excited for people to like hopefully go see it in the theater because I feel like that's where it should be seen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
Yeah, I'm
agree.
I'm gonna go see. So it was the oh Jesus you heard was probably me from Atlanta because because I seriously like so I started watching the movie after my daughter went to sleep. So it was nighttime. I was by myself. Turned the lights down low. The first like 10 minutes, and I was like, nope, nope. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
watch this during the daytime. So I want to be in the theater because it is a totally different experience and being able to experience it with people and you get all of the like you can have really great theater experiences. Unfortunately you can have poor ones too, so this is one that I'm going to see in theaters because I want to experience it not in my own house with distractions. Oh, I have to pause it or whatever. I want to be able to see it in its live environment, so I'm very
Yeah.
much looking forward to it. So
I
let's
appreciate
get
it.
into Traumatica now,
Yes,
and I
yes.
want you to tell me what was it that got you excited for the role? Like when you started, is I know you had worked with them before, and so did they come to you directly, or was this something that you found an audition for?
So yeah, so like I said, like you said, I worked with them previously, but I wasn't the first thought because originally it was written to be an older woman. They had an idea of it being like a grandmother that
Mm-hmm.
was chasing around a kid.
Hmm.
And I guess whoever was they offered it to, it didn't work out. And so then he messaged me and he was like, "Hey, do you know any older actresses? I'm looking for somebody for this part." And I was like, "Okay, let me think about it." Because I knew it was going to be like a very crazy role. So I was like, "Let me
Mm-hmm.
think about like who might be interested."
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you. And then the next day he messaged me and it was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like,
Like you're like,
"Yeah."
yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
So they, rewrote it and tailored it to fit me. So
Yeah.
obviously I'm much younger. Um, and for certain scenes to work. So uh yeah, and so I knew I was going to be in because I love working with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really what like really excited me was the character because even though, she not to spoil too much, but she's, starts out very much as the villain in the beginning. You think you know her and you
Mm-hmm.
think
Hmm.
what's happening, and then as the film progresses, you find out why she is the way she is, and what happened to her, and the trauma that she went through, and how it shaped what's happening to her, and whether it be if you take it as a literal what's happening, or it could be metaphorical what's happening.
Right.
There's a lot of things, the ways that you could take this film, which I like.
Yeah.
But I knew that she was going to have so many layers and complexities and challenges and things to do that I had never done. And I was excited to explore that. because I love the way that they told the story, and instead of being a linear story, the way
Hmm.
they introduced to her, because
Hmm.
oh, I know who this woman is, and then you're like, wait, maybe I don't. And so then maybe at the end you have a little empathy for her, and then you're
Oh yeah.
hopefully confused about how to feel about her because nobody is all one thing. And so that was really interesting, and then also brought up just a human question in me as far as if it were my family, if it was my husband or my parents or someone I love, my sister, what would I do to protect them?
Right.
Yeah.
What, because while she is possessed, she also has a choice, and she's doing things because she's thinking about her sister who's a child, who's like 7, and she cannot let happen what happened to her happen to Alice. And that's, I don't know, as Rebecca, like I have no, I'd like to say that I would, but I don't know. I don't know
Hmm.
how I would react. And so I love doing things that bring up human questions for me and like challenge me as a person about like how would I deal with this? Because
Yeah.
then it gives hopefully the character that internal struggle of I'm doing it, I don't want to be doing it, but the back and forth of like what is right and what is wrong. And then of course, like we talked about, the what's happened to her and the trauma of like whether it be real or metaphorical, like how that's manifesting in her body, on her face, the way she moves, and like trauma lives in the body. And so it was
Hmm.
all really
Yeah.
interesting to like explore.
Awesome.
Cool, yeah. And the film seems to blend like multiple horror subgenres, like there's supernatural, possession, maybe even a little like slasher vibes to it. As an actor, how do you approach such a genre mixing story? Like, was it hard for you to do that?
I mean, it wasn't hard for me only because I wasn't involved in the second part,
Yeah.
like the
Oh, that's
slasher
true. Yeah.
part. So I didn't have to really deal with that part of the movie, which so that so I can't answer that. But I mean, I always take everything as like grounded and as serious as I can. And then if there is any level, I mean, my character didn't really have any comedic elements, I don't think, but I mean, maybe the dance, a few
Yeah,
people,
that's the thing I was thinking
yeah,
of.
people like chuckled at that, and because it's so weird and like out like crazy.
Almost like Evil Dead. Yeah.
Right, I loved that moment in the movie. Um, so for me, it's like, yeah, I always play everything like straight, and then if something is funny, it will be that way, not because I'm like trying to make it funny.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that I mean, Pierre, I said like it ended up being more disturbing, I think, than he even like planned, just because that's
Oh
just the
wow.
way things were filmed, and it just happened on set the way we were able to find things and make it work. So,
Very cool.
um, yeah, so that's why. So I don't try to like think about too much about like, oh, it's got to be this or that. I just, you know,
Hmm.
playing
Yeah.
I'm doing what's in the script, and then whatever happens, if
That
that
was
makes
that was I like the switch in the subgenres. I mean, I know you didn't have as much in the second half, but like I thought I knew the film. I thought I knew where this was going,
Yeah.
and then I was like, wait, hold on a minute. Like we've gone from like what starts as very supernatural possession to like some very different territory, which at first I was like, does this work or does it feel disjointed? And I watched it a second time and I was like, no, it absolutely works. Like it was very like I wasn't expecting it, and maybe that's why it just
Yeah.
like threw me off because my brain was like, hold on, reboot. Like what am so I thought it was really fun that they kind of mix those genres because a lot of films are one thing and one thing only. They're like, all right, we're gonna be a slasher, or we're gonna be, an exorcism film kind of thing. And then this one was like, fuck that, we're gonna
Yeah.
do all of it.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's one thing I'll say about them is like they try to keep people on their toes, and they try to give them something that, I mean, it's both of their films are, for horror fans, made by horror fans. I mean, Pierre
Hmm.
and Max are at the end of the day huge horror nerds like I am, and they love horror, and it's the love goes behind it. There is a love for the genre, so much so that it's like, they're trying to like keep people, unpredictable as much as they can, but
Hmm.
behind
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
there is like a deep love for it as well. And they do things that they might like to see, on the screen. So
Right.
it makes for an interesting, fun ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So we've talked a little bit about indie versus like a big studio film. Like specifically, what were the big like how does it compare to like the studio like a big studio project versus like an indie set? Can you give us some examples? Like is this because I've had people that have been like, oh, when I was on a big movie set, it was like everything was very like it was like a well-oiled machine where it was just like you're here, here's your shooting times, boom, boom. Like it was very like it was like impressive to watch. It was like watching, the inner workings of a clock kind of, work together. Whereas they're like, I've worked on some indie films. They're like, not to say that they aren't professional, they definitely are, but it's a very different feeling. It's just a more of like like we're a family, like, we're comfortable with each other. So is it your experience maybe on Season of the Witch versus, working on Traumatica?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for sure. Like Season of the Witch, I mean, it was a $40 million movie, so you've got like, 100 crew walking around and everything
Right.
is very regimented and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's all like, there's people walking around with little snacks and like, do you need anything? And it's like, there
Yes, I
was like a
do.
meatball subs, one day and they're like, would you like one? And it's like all the, so of course, like there's the money to be able to do that.
Right.
And
Right.
you've got big trailers and you've got all the luxuries of like, the actors don't really need, in order to work, they're nice.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
they're
Bougie.
they're bougie.
Bougie.
They're wants, they're not needs. Yes,
Yeah.
it is nice to be able to go into a space to like get away and like decompress
Yeah.
or work on something. But I don't need like a huge RV. Uh, so yeah, sure, there's all those like lovely things that, they could do. And then on an indie, you don't have anybody walking around with food. Um, you know, of course they're trying to take care of you the best they can. And
Right.
I've
Yeah.
never like felt mistreated.
Right.
But you don't have, it's like you got the chair in the
Hmm.
corner, there's no trailer, which is fine. Again, it's like I don't certain things. I'm not a method actor by any means in terms of like I don't stay in character all day. I'm not like you must call me Abigail and like I'm
Yeah.
like lunch like
Hmm.
or anything like that. But there is something to be said about when it's scrappy and you're sitting in the corner of a dark, creepy house waiting while they set up that just adds to the oppression of the what's happening, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like
Just muttering incantations.
right. I mean, sure, as much as like it would be lovely to like be on in a trailer and like, in my AC with my TV and then they're like, "We're ready for you." And that's all and you walk and you're like, "Okay, that's all lovely." I'm not knocking that because I've had that.
Right.
It's amazing. I'm not gonna say like, "Oh, it's the worst." But on the opposite end, when you're playing a character like Abigail, there is something to be said about like you said, smuttering, sitting in the corner, feeling tired and cold or hot and
Hmm.
um just exhausted and it's a house that's like was almost burned down, so it's very much the house is the house like they're using out
Hmm.
the sets.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing is very much the house, so it's like creepy, smelly, like old, um very like cold and just like you feel just when you walk in, you just feel it, the vibe
Hmm.
there. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that like then when you're stepping into the scene, it's just like it's all kind of just ruminating in you
Yeah.
and it adds like a level to the movie and the performance that maybe you wouldn't have if you had the luxuries of like, oh, I just took a nap in my trailer for 2 hours. I don't know. I mean, maybe it would be the same. I don't know because it's
Yeah.
like I didn't work on this movie that way, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I try to take whatever is happening to me as Rebecca, if I'm on set, like, and I try to like that is what the character is feeling. That is
Yeah.
infused in um all of like what is happening on set. And because like you said it's not a big movie, we don't have like months of rehearsal.
Right.
So we have a camera rehearsal, like rehearse what the camera is going to be. Everyone's safe, comfortable. We block it out if there's any intimacy scenes.
Hmm.
It's me, which a lot of it was me because the the little boy that played Mikey Rainin wasn't there when I was doing them when I had the makeup on. He was not there, so a lot of it was just me and Pierre.
Okay.
And there was something to like be said about that scene, like the pregnancy scene where we just it was me and him and a camera, and it's just very intimate and
Hmm.
quiet and like chilling. And that's what's that scene was just needed. You know,
Hmm.
like 50 people adjusting everything because we didn't have
Exactly.
that. We just had a very small crew. So, everyone else steps out and it's just me and him and the camera. And there's something so intimate about doing that, if that makes sense. That
It
like
does.
brings a different
Yeah.
level, a different sense of like self to it. That you can feel a little bit more open, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that without giving any spoilers away, was there any particular scene or moment from Traumatica that really stuck with you, like either during filming it or even still to this day?
Yeah, there's a couple scenes for sure.
Sure.
The pregnancy scene was really hard. That one was stuck.
I can
That was
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, that was real. I was really nervous about filming that scene. The scene, I loved doing the dance scene. That was really fun.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Just getting to do my own stunts, like running on all fours, was like I was like, oh, let's do it. Let's try. Let's see what happens.
That
Um,
always creeps me out.
I
I
kind of
know
recorded
that is the
in my
creepiest.
living room, but I was like, let's see what happens. Uh,
Yeah.
what's the foot sucking scene? Oh my,
Oh
that
Oh,
God,
was
yeah.
that wasn't my foot. So let's be like that was
Yeah.
big foot. But just like we're like just doing that was like the last scene of the day, and
oof.
there's a great video of us just like with huge grins on our faces
Oh
because
yeah.
Sean was just going for it and was just like balls to the wall and had no fear.
Yeah.
He was so amazing, and we're just like laughing because it was just
Just
like
get it.
incredible.
Just get it,
Yeah.
buddy.
Get it.
And then the last would be like, um, and it wasn't good. It just worked out this way. So the scene where we're looking at the bathtub with the booger,
Hmm.
Yeah.
that came from we were done with the scene and we were moving on, and I was like, I learned early on if as soon as the camera starts to move, you're not going back to that spot. So if you need something, you better say like something. And so
Hmm.
I was like, I think I can I have one more take? And he's like, sure, what's going on? And I was like, I don't feel like I released. I feel like I could do another one. And he was like, okay. And like later on, I found out they were like super behind, but he let me do it anyway, which is a huge testament to them and their
Yeah.
willingness to let me get what I need. And
Yeah.
that's where that came from because it was like there was so much uh because of the prosthetic and I couldn't sniff, and because of all the emotional stuff it was my nose was running, and I could feel it but I couldn't do anything about it because I was like Abigail would never care in that
Yeah.
moment
Right.
what's
Uh-huh.
happening. And then I tried to wipe it and it was still there, and then we called cut and Pierre was like, that's the take. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like no. And he's like, and every screening I've been in, like that's an audible reaction to that scene. Like everyone's like, oh God. But it's so like perfect because it's so feral and like the
Uh-huh.
depth of like what she's going through and just like adds another layer that we could never have planned or rehearsed, even if we had rehearsed for months. Like we never would have found that other than just them being willing on the day to like do one more.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
funny.
Oh,
So,
that's good. That's a funny scene. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I feel like, oh, thanks. Can I have a Kleenex now?
Right.
Appreciate you.
yeah. I was like, I hope that becomes a meme somewhere.
Hey, if it does, that means you've made it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're meme forever. But so what do you hope that your audiences take away other than just the scares and the demon, the door, like all the other than the stuff that's going to scare you? What do you hope they take away from Traumatica?
I mean, I hope it opens up some conversations about like what's happening and then in the movie and just about as far as like the moments that like stick with people. Of like you said, other than like it being scary, that's all well and good. And like it's a horror
Sure.
movie, so I'm
Hmm.
glad like if we
Yeah.
scare anybody, that's a success. But um also underneath it, I feel like Pierre built like these really incredible visuals and things that imagery that hopefully people can't forget and it like stays in your mind and you're having a conversation about what it means and like did you see that moment? Like what do you think this means? And um after the movie's done, I mean if anyone, is talking about it afterwards at all, then I feel like that's a success and I hope that um people see the love also that went into it from people that love horror,
Hmm.
Hmm.
from the fans of horror as well, because there was a lot that went into it as well. Yeah, I think that's probably,
Okay.
yeah, and like I
Cool.
said, just you're able to like explore themes that you wouldn't be able to explore in other movies that is like people are willing to watch. So hopefully that's also opens up conversations about generational trauma and like what
Oh
that
yeah.
looks like and people are able to connect in that way.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. So, because there is more to a lot of horror than just the scares. There is a lot of underlying themes and little Easter eggs, if you will, that are in there. So I'm excited to go see it on the big screen because maybe there's something I missed the first couple of times, right? So,
Yeah.
and if only my wife was a horror fan, she would. I can't get her to watch it. I'm like, I watch these movies, and that's why I'm like, all right, David, my work wife, I'm gonna be like, David, let's talk about this because
Yeah.
my wife won't watch them with me. I'm like, I
Neither
have
will
to.
mine.
I have to get these thoughts out of my head and they have to
You
go
just tell
somewhere.
her you're going to see something else, and then like, oh, it's in
You'll
this theater.
Yeah.
switcheroo.
And
And
then she's like, why are all these trailers for horror movies? And you're like,
yeah.
no,
I
it's
don't
so weird.
yeah. She's gonna be like, I have this paper I need you to sign. These
Right.
divorce papers, exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of looking ahead for, future projects, things that you might have come up, what kind of roles are you most excited for looking forward? Are you drawn to similar staying in horror? Are you wanting to kind of say, hey, you know what? Like I know you'll take what you're given, but at the same time, are you like, hey, this is very much a genre that I really love that I'll take over other roles? Or are you wanting to, like you said, expand into other things that maybe you haven't done to see that if you can do it, to grow, you know, to hone your craft?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say like, all right, we'll take anything that
I've got a toothpaste commercial.
I'm an actor for hire. If you need an actor, call me. No. Um, I mean, of course, I mean, really for roles, it's like if I can continue to do roles that challenge me and like that make me think and that are unique and different and that hopefully people make an impact on them in some way, that's
Hmm.
always my goal
Right.
over genre. I don't care as much about like what the genre is, than I care about the story and like what the character is and like does she impact me in some way?
Hmm.
Does she challenge me? Does she, oh, I would, if I start like dreaming of her, if I start, oh, she would be so fun to like, I can't wait to explore this or do this.
Yeah.
That's the kind of role I want. I mean, all genres to me are fun. I don't know if I'll ever be in like an action movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
probably not. But but you never know, I
You
Yeah.
guess.
never know.
You never know. Um, so yeah, so it doesn't really matter to me for like the genre, more so just like what does the role impact me in some way. So I hope to like, continue to do all kinds of different things and then maybe people are like I remember a long time ago because I always audition for like crazy stuff and my friend was like, I love hearing about your auditions because the roles are always like crazy, like it's a mermaid, it's a woman that's been kidnapped, it's like always just like these,
Hmm.
so it's like that's what I hope to build in a career is like, oh, that's the actress that does like, I want to go see her movie because she always has like really interesting roles. That would be like my goal. Like my dream would be to have that, if that, I don't
Well,
know.
well, selfishly, we hope to see you in more horror,
Yeah.
but I understand.
Oh,
Yes,
so too.
I
I hope
agree.
so too.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely like you said. If you read something and you're like, yes, like sometimes you just know, and then if you resonate with that role, that doesn't matter if it's a religious piece or if it's a drama or a thriller
Hmm.
or whatever. It's like yes, like the role it specifically means more than what the actual genre. So that makes complete sense.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure I will be doing, I mean, I just wrapped a horror in March. It was my first one I produced as well as acted
Ooh,
in.
nice.
I have another one. Like I have several more in development. I'm sure like many more horror movies to come. I don't ever see myself in a world where I'm not doing horror. Uh,
Hmm.
no matter what happens to me, unless I'm like on some series for like 10 years or something. And then I'll be
Yeah.
in a horror film in the summer when I'm off or something.
There you
Uh,
go. That's
but
awesome.
yeah, so yeah, because I love it. I get to do just crazy stuff that I would never get to do any other way. And having listening reactions like that from people are just like it's great. It's just so fun, you know.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, if you could collaborate with any director in horror today, who would be your dream pick and why?
That's a fun question.
That's a fun question because I have a long list of
Yeah.
people. But one that pops in my head first would be Mike Flanagan for sure.
Great pick.
Mm,
Um, I've loved all of the shows he has done, his movies. I feel like he is just has such a love also for the genre and
yeah.
has really wonderful taste and just creates really um, amazing visuals and is, I loved the Fall of the House of Usher because you'd be just having a conversation like this and then something would walk behind you and there was no setup or music or like lead up. It was just there and it was like,
Yeah.
ah. And then, I actually auditioned for Haunting of Hill House, but um seeing all, finding all the ghosts in the show and watching, it's just like little Easter eggs he's able to put in and you can just
Definitely. Yeah.
feel like how much he respect and love he has for it. It's not just like, oh, it's a job, so I'm doing it because it
Hmm.
pays the bills. It's like he has such a um, love for it. So yeah, he's definitely one I would love to collaborate with, if he'd ever have want me to work with him in the future.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Nice.
that's a great pick.
It
I
is,
love
yeah.
all his shows and Hush. The that was
Yeah,
one of that one was very
great.
unsettling. With you have the woman who's deaf and a home
Hmm.
invasion. I'm like, okay, Mike
Yeah.
Flanagan. Yeah, he's goated for sure. He's done some great
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're getting near the end here. I just wanted to find out what piece of advice could you give to young actors, people looking to get into break into the world, into film in general. Just any advice you have for for them.
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Damn.
just kidding. Um, no, I would say get into a class if you're not in a class. You, at the end of the day, the craft, being a good actor is most important. Everything
Mhm.
else is important. Sure, social media, sure, headshots, sure,
Mhm.
reels, sure, all the components of being an actor, trying to be an actor are important. But if you're not good at what you do, um, everything is a lot harder.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, all when everything falls away, when your looks fade and all the rest of it is gone, what you have left is like if you're um, good at it. Um,
Mhm.
and also you build a community there. You people that are doing the same thing you want to be doing, and maybe you find a mentor or two. Maybe you find people that are doing where you want to be in your career, and you can look to them for advice or mentorship or just fellowship with other actors. It's such a lonely business. It can feel very lonely and very isolating.
Right.
So you've got to have people that are wanting to do this with you, and it's not feels so alone. And then, it seems silly, but you never kind of know what the next day will bring, so you keep going. You
Hmm.
know, like my manager used to say, like, tomorrow could be the audition that changes your life. Like you just don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's why you keep going because at the end of the day, like maybe one moment isn't going to change your life, but all the little moments kind of lead up to the big ones. And so I think it's also really important to like celebrate everything. You celebrate every audition, you celebrate you got a call back, celebrate that you met a person, in the industry, celebrate that you sent an email you were scared to send.
Hmm.
Celebrate that you connected with somebody that you wanted to connect with or that you know, just whatever it is that you're not, if you're only celebrating when you book,
Mhm.
you might only be celebrating once a year, like if it's
Right.
in year or maybe not ever that year because you
Hmm.
don't know when you're going to work next. I mean, even for me, it's like I don't necessarily have anything, like dates on the book yet. So you never kind of know um, if you're going to work next week or
Yeah.
a year from now. So it's
That's
like
true.
just keeping keeping that celebration of like you're doing it. You're
Hmm.
doing the thing that you want to be doing, even if it's small steps. Every day you're like working towards a goal. For me, it's like I look back at the last year and I'm like, did I have I accomplished more last year or this year than I did last year? You know,
Hmm.
each year it's like if I'm doing a little bit more, even if it's not a huge accomplishment, but just something more than I did the year before, then I feel like I'm growing and I'm moving the right direction.
Of course.
So that's what I would say, like for actors is just, it's so cliche to say not give up.
Hmm.
Really want to be doing this. If this is really your love and your passion, you can't. You have to just keep stepping. And success
Mhm.
can look different for different people. Maybe you're never on a series, maybe you're never in a big blockbuster movie, but if you're acting, then you're getting success. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
That's a great answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it seems like a challenging but then challenging profession, but everyone I've met who's done it is like you got to love it, and if you
Yep.
love it, don't ever quit. And so it seems to be the consensus. So well, that's all the questions I think we had specifically. Rebecca, thank you so much for
Yep.
joining and talking with us. Thank you for answering, a live message from some weirdo that's like, "Hey, come talk on my podcast." That was me. Like, yeah, take risks, people. Sometimes, you
Right.
get to talk to lovely people.
No,
But yes,
I love it. Like you guys are like we said the heart of like the indie films and indie horror and getting the word out. And if anyone goes and sees it in the theater, it's a win. So,
right.
I appreciate you
Absolutely.
guys so much, and I hope people will go see it, this weekend when it
Yes.
comes out.
Yeah, so Traumatica will
Mhm.
be in theaters on Friday, September 12th. Go out
Yep.
there and check your theaters, and if it's not playing in your local theater, drive and go find it because it's amazing. It's a fun film. It is
Hmm.
going to make you feel things that you didn't know you were going to feel during a horror movie. We'll say that. So if you love possession and you love a little spooky stuff to start, now that we're in months that end in Burr, right? We're in
Yep.
September. We're in spooky season.
It is official.
Go out there, support independent film. Rebecca, do you want to give a shout out to where people can find you on your socials, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Becca, Bekahk. I'm like you said on TikTok, but I am not great at TikTok, but I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to get on there. So
Yep.
you can find me at Rebekah L. Kennedy. I just posted a new video the other day, first one in like years, so I'm trying to get better. I'm also on X, Rebekah Kennedy. I'm on Facebook. If you Google me, all the places will pop up.
Yep.
Right on.
Awesome. Awesome. And that's Traumatica, Traumatika, is the spelling. So if you're looking that up, look out there on Fandango. You can go out there, buy your tickets.
Yep.
Definitely go us out there, support indie film, support indie horror. We had a blast talking with you today, Rebecca. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for joining and
Yes.
enjoy the
Thank you.
rest of your day. We'll get this episode up, and as soon as it's live, I'll send you all the links. Feel free to share it across your
Absolutely.
socials. And let's get some folks out to see this movie because it was
Yes.
amazing. And once again, thank you so much for joining.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to
Absolutely.
talking soon.
All right. Have a
Take
great
care.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.